I don't see anything in the chat. Maybe I could hear someone say, "How is your day going?"
Slow, but it's going.
Okay, okay. Slow, but it's going. All right. Well, good, good, good. Mm. A little H3O. Some of that H3O. Who been in traffic getting home? It's been a serious day sometimes now. I've been in Riverdale for 3 days in a row. When you work from home and then you finally have to go back in the office, it's almost like you got to reacclimate yourself to the freeway. Crazy. But hey, all right, everybody, we are back, and this is man, going well. And today I put in the chat, there is an event I mentioned that's happening at CSM with one of my students who has taken this course in the past. Her name is Shelly. I'm going to share her Facebook page as well. But she has a really cool event coming up next week, and you are invited. It's free for you and your family. You can bring your kids. You can go there and just have a good time, right? And so I'm going to share that information. It's called the Become One Project. It's actually a photography and video exhibition. So some of the photos that she's actually taken is going to be in that exhibit, and hopefully you'll get a chance to check that out. And it's going to move through a number of different high schools. And as it does that, you'll be able to check that out, right? And so, again, that's going to be May 3rd at CSM in Prince Frederick campus. You know, I teach on all, well, four really, but it's three major campuses. And then we have a remote campus in Waldorf, but I teach at all of those. And she'll be at that one from 6 to 8 p.m. If you didn't see it, it is in the chat. And Gail, I'll fix that for you so you don't have to worry about it. I'm glad you finally made it. I saw all the back and forth with Shelly, and I'll send you some updates. I'll meet with you one-on-one also, and I'll be sending you the recordings because of what happened in your yeah, you're welcome. Inability to get in on day one because of some of the things that were going on with your computer, et cetera. We'll work all that out. And there's a couple pieces I definitely want to just go one-on-one with you to make sure it's real solid with what you want to do. All right. And is that your significant other next to you, or you got a visitor, or what's happening? Who is that? You can unmute.
Pushed the wrong button, sorry. That's my husband.
Okay, okay, pushing
Otherwise
buttons.
known as Raymond.
Raymond, what's up, Raymond? Say hi to the people because they're gonna see you kind of pop in, pop out since you're right there. Y'all got some cool chairs, man. I like those chairs. I want to get some
It's
of
all
the
his fault. He did
gaming
it.
chairs. I know they cool. All right, Raymond. Well, you know, Gail's gonna catch up with everyone. Everyone say hi to Gail. Um, and you know, cool beans. So let's get into it. Can you see the stuff in the chat? Because sometimes if you come in afterwards, you can't see it. So, Chrissy, are you able to see the dates and then see the Become One project?
No.
All right. So let me go ahead and put that back in, because I don't know what that is that it does that, but if you come in afterwards, sometime it shows, sometime it don't. All right. You should see it now. And that is Shelly's event. And then just a reminder, we have 3 more days that we'll be getting together. That's coming up 5, 2, 4, and 6 being our last day in class together. So I'm putting that in the chat with the amount of hours. And again, I think we had a half hour over that we can, you know, use however you want. I'll be here available. But I'm always available after class, at least a half an hour to 45 minutes. All right. So questions, comments, what worked well? what gave you a little bit of angst? You know, where did you get stuck? Anybody want to start? Everything cool? And you can go ahead. I will make this shareable so you can share your results and explain to us the priority that you used. What's going on? How did you get the photo that you are sharing? Who wants to go first? Thank you so much for raising your hand, Chrissy. You're just amazing. I love it when you do that. So go to call on Chris.
Okay. I have been playing with this all
Oh, I
day.
like your shirt.
Just
What does that say? Kiwi? Kiwi?
Kiwi?
What's on your
Oh,
shirt
my
right here?
initials.
Oh, that's hot. You did that yourself?
Not this one, but I have done them.
That is hot. I like the font. It's really cool.
Um,
I
I've been
get
playing, I've
squirrely sometimes. I just that's awesome.
I have been playing with this thing all day, and let me tell you that I am so frustrated with it.
Really?
Yes. So
Let's see what's going on
I want to show you my
in your
first
world.
one. I want to show you this picture just because this is what I can do with my phone, right?
Okay, let's see what you got.
This is what I do. Like, this is what I can do with my phone. This is so pretty. You can see all the little rain bubbles and
You can see the
whatever.
hair on the
Yes.
caterpillar.
Yes, and all the colors come out right. And literally all I have to do is basically point and shoot. I mean, I have to find something pretty to take a picture of, but like this is what comes out.
Quick
So
question: is your information on there too? Like you can right click and get it?
I think it's on my phone. Since I switched this over to my computer, I don't think it's on here.
Okay, cool. Just
But
curious.
yes, I have been watching that too, now that I know what I'm actually looking at. Okay, now I'm going to show you my other pictures because I'm not happy with them. I actually chased a bee around today for about 10 minutes trying to like get the wings. It was a
Okay.
mess.
We're giving
So
you a heart. We're gonna give you hearts already just for that. That's
yeah,
anybody
yeah.
that's chasing wings of a bee is really dialed in on this
it
class.
was a day. So okay, let me show you the rest of these. All right. Share. And how do I make this bigger? Okay.
Ooh, look at that.
So I went through, I don't know, can you guys see this part?
It's a little small, but I mean you could tell us what it is if you want to give us the f-stop.
This one I did an aperture priority and it's the f/22.
Okay.
I got up close and personal with this one.
What was your ISO? Mid-range?
Yeah, no, I think this one was at
800? 4? Okay.
And I tried to stick to the same one for a few of them. So this is when I switched it to shutter priority. Obviously, I was trying to get the wind to move stuff, and it didn't. I thought there would be a little more action than that. And then I switched over to this ants because he was moving. So this actually did catch him. He was going pretty fast. It's another ant. The dog came out to help me because here's the
he knew
bee.
you were frustrated.
Yes. Do you see this bee? Do you
Yes, I
actually
see the
see it?
wings.
Okay. You can almost see
You
that
can see
there's
the
like
wings.
wings, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Is that what it's supposed to look like, or is it
yeah.
supposed to be more detailed?
You just a little far away. You could have got closer to. I mean, is
Okay.
that the closest your lens would get to
Yes.
the bee?
Yeah, for the one I had on
So
that at
let's
that point.
go in a little bit on that and see what you get. So up top, just go in just a few clicks and see if it stays in focus.
Where is
Up top, you should have the plus and minus. Just go with the plus right quick.
do I? No, I don't.
Up top to the left.
Left.
I mean to the right, excuse me. Over right there. Okay. It's
a Mac. I don't understand this thing either, so that doesn't help.
all right. Well, try this. Do you have a scroller on your on your well, I don't know.
Mouse?
Are you a touch screen?
No.
Okay. On your mouse, if you could scroll it, it might scroll in and out. Because all you do is just do is go in and out real quick, just
Mm,
to see if you can get closer to the B. I'm real curious about it now.
I have no.
Okay. No problem. We're not gonna worry about it, but you do have a zoom feature somewhere. I thought it would be at the top and it'll be like a drop
Think
down menu.
if you hold the command key and then like
Yes.
scroll up with your mouse pad, it should work.
See, look at that. Michael got he works with these.
Doesn't like me. So I'm not even going
Well,
to.
click on the photo first and then try what Mike said.
Yeah, it won't let me do. I don't know.
Okay.
Is it the
No,
picture?
no problem. All right, cool.
I'm challenged. It's fine. So that's the first B picture I have. This is the second B picture right
Okay.
here.
So yeah.
I have a bunch of them, and these were the only two that even came remotely close to being able to see the bee. So
Okay.
um
Chrissy and the
I-
bee. Oh, okay.
yeah, I was really trying to focus on like the movement stuff because I didn't get that much last time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where I just kind of gave up because you'll see I started playing with my potted plants and spinning them. I think my neighbors think I'm crazy. I was out there spinning my plants, but this was fun. It looked like it was dancing when I was actually going through them.
Oh yeah, that's different.
Just spins.
You definitely could see the rotation.
Yeah, so like that is what is this one? 7.1 for the f-stop, and exposure was 1/50.
Okay.
This is 1/10. And then I just started playing with the aperture priority. I do appreciate that one. I think that's probably one of my favorite settings now.
Yeah, there are a number of photographers that's their go-to.
I
And I
have a whole
guess it has
bunch
to do with just getting close up, when
close
they
up.
decide to get close ups. Yeah, they do a
Yeah.
lot of low depth of field shots. Mm-hmm.
I played with the lighting
Ooh, okay.
again with
Mm-hmm.
these outside.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really like this flower that came out this way, and
Yeah.
I thought when I looked at it in my camera, it looked like it had blown out, but I thought this was actually kind of pretty.
Okay. Little washed out as far as the light, but that's pretty
I thought it
dynamic.
gave it kind of an edge.
Yeah. That's cool.
And there's just like the natural color of it. I did have a bird visit. I thought this
Oh,
was
look at that. Finch.
funny because it was focusing on this one and not the bird, but I did get a better picture of him. I thought he was kind of cute.
All right. So you see the eyeball. So you can
Mhm.
see the claws. They're very crisp. You can see the detail in the wings. So that's good
And then,
compared to the
yeah,
thing that he's sitting on, the perch.
right.
Mhm. Or she.
And then I tried to play with like the actual viewpoint.
Yep. That's lovely. Top down into the leaf.
Trying to get this to focus just on the middle part was kind of challenging, but I did it in manual and it finally worked.
Okay, so remember, manual is for close-ups. Manual is for you want to control it when manual. And one of the things you do is you go in as close to what you want first, then focus and then bring it out. And that will help you
Um,
get what you want. But remember, that's exactly what you want to do. Autofocus is going to keep going back and forth because it's going to try to get inside, outside, inside, out. It's going to go, it's going to keep going back and forth.
mhm.
But when you do manual, then you can tell it, I want that. And remember, just halfway in on your shutter, and it'll tell you like what it's focusing on.
Okay.
Okay, but I think it's an interesting shot.
I was happy it came out.
Mhm.
And then these are my last ones I'll show you
No
because
problem.
my son came home and said he wanted to play with bubbles, and
Oh, cool.
these actually came out pretty good for them, like actually moving. And then I put them in the.
That is pretty.
These are my the last three I was very happy with.
Yeah, you got a lot of prism shots. You got capture lights inside the bubbles. Depth of field is great because the bubbles are crisp and then everything else in the background is not. You know, I think you did a good job for the first time figuring it out.
Good. Thank you.
So what do you think?
I like the bubble ones. Everything
Mhm.
else I'm kind of in between.
Okay, well, I mean, the B, you definitely want to be closer, right? Because
Yes.
you want us to know it's a B that we're looking at. It
Right.
was all that other stuff. It's just like, remember, we talked about those things distract the eye. What do you want us to look at, right? And the other thing is positioning yourself, as close as you can to the subject, but also remembering where your rule of thirds are, right? So to do that. And so that's another part. And then you should, or you probably have a button. I know I have one. And on my button, I can quickly tell my camera to do telephoto. And so I can actually go all the way in or all the way out just by the push of a button right here. And it'll plus minus in and it'll go straight in. And so I guess my question on the B was, were you as close as you can get as far as did you have your lens extended in to get as close as you could?
I did. It kept
Okay.
moving.
Okay. So that's the thing. All right, no problem. Other than that, what lesson did you take away from this experience?
Um, that I need to get more comfortable with the ISO. I think that's something that I'm still kind of struggling with.
All right. And ISO, again, it's just an international standard for how much light hits the sensor, right? That's why it's there. But it controls a lot because if you're outdoors, a lot of times you can wash out. And so outside light, bright lights, low ISO. Low light, high ISO, right? Think about low light, you want as much light coming in as possible. Low light, you want to reduce it and just kind of control it so it's not so much that it overshadow, we're going to talk about exposure tonight, but exposes so much that you get overexposure.
Okay.
And sometimes you want overexposure on purpose, like that flower, right? Because that rose overexposed actually was a pretty classic shot. Put that in a really nice frame and and do it on glass, it'll probably just pop. So sometimes you'll remember we talked about breaking the rules to get what you want.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right, good job, Chrissy. Who are we going to hear from next?
Devin.
All right, Devin, you're up.
All right. I got my dog to cooperate.
Okay.
This is the first one. This was at, I got it on my phone. This was at 1/1000 of the shutter speed,
Okay.
7.1 aperture.
All right. Was your ISO naturally there or did you have to mess around with it?
It was
Manually?
naturally there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you know what it was?
It was 2500.
Yeah, it looks really bright.
Yeah.
And I think it was high. So right off the bat, that would be my first thought to bring that down so you could see the coat better.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
know? So let's see what you got.
Got that one. This one is also high.
Mm-hmm.
And this one was lower.
Okay. Same time of day?
Yeah, this is all at the same time.
Yeah. All right. What was your ISO on this one? 500?
I think I got that one for that. I didn't think I wrote that one down.
Oh, okay, no problem.
This one, I got quite a few of them, but then that one just didn't come out
Mm-hmm.
right.
Okay. Well, remember, you're testing your range as well, right? So
Yeah,
it's not
that's
right
true.
or wrong. It's now letting you know, okay, if I am all the way up here, wow, I need to come down to, and it's all about, you know, how much light you let into that shutter.
Okay.
So you'll be able to start making moves to really get what you want based on the what you see there. And of course, was this 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock?
This was 11:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
11:30 is right before high noon, right? So you're
Mhm.
gonna have the highest sun at that time coming in to noon and then over to 1. So
Gotcha.
11 to 1 is kind of like the brightest time of the sun. If you
Mhm.
don't have any cloud cover, you're gonna get a lot of possibility for overexposure. So, all right, continue.
This one.
Man,
I
you
was
got
trying
a
to
pretty
do.
cooperative dog.
Yeah. I was telling him to stay, and I was surprised. I got this one.
Oh,
I like this one.
That is pretty. I like
Yeah.
that. I like your composition there too, along with the lines in the back and everything.
Hmm. That one was the high exposure.
Hmm.
And then I did my ceiling fan as well. That one came out wrong. Well, not wrong, but the exposure once again.
Hmm.
And I sort of got it blurry. I was trying to get it, but
Okay. Kind of stopped it in action there.
yeah,
I could see a little blur
yeah,
on the edges, but that also could be a depth of field that
yeah,
you noticed there. Hmm. You see how sharp it is in the middle by the little handle thing that you click,
yeah.
um, as opposed to the edges. But it was moving, right?
Yeah, it was. Yep, full
Okay,
speed.
okay, okay, cool.
Yep. And then I got that one blurry because I moved it. And that was it.
All right. So same question. Um,
Mhm.
what did you like most, and then where did you get stuck? What was the thing that was like, oh my gosh, you know, I wish this would have been better.
Um, I really liked, like you said, this one. I like to add more. I would like to add more background,
Hmm.
just make it more, picture more lively, I guess I would say.
So here's what I would do. Use this later when you do your editing that we're gonna
Mhm.
do in next week when we do editing. Use this as your example, and maybe you can do post production. Put something else in the background, or get rid of all those lines and just only have the wood,
Mhm.
or take that whole background out and put something else back there.
Okay.
We'll be sharing some just basic editing, and I would also highlight this dark side of his face. Is
Mhm.
it him or her?
It's a him.
Yeah, I would doubt. I would brighten up that spotlight up in there so that
Mhm.
you can just bring some of his color out. Because more than likely in post production, all you got to do is hit that maybe 1 or 2 lightnesses or
Okay.
spotlight it, and you'll be fine. Because you see how the light lays on his back.
Yeah.
That's a really good shot from the sun coming down on that side.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
that's why his face is so dark, because all the lights behind him,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
And anytime, and this is everybody, if you're gonna shoot somebody, oh Lord, I hate when I say that. If you're gonna take photos of people or animals or whatever, you want to position yourself as best possible where the sun or the light source is in front of you, the key light. We're gonna go over lighting today. You're gonna see about that when we talk about exposure. And you'll see what I mean when I say key light. Any light, main light could be your key light. That's your main light key. That's the word key light, right? And then everything else is supplemental, right? Right now, as I'm sitting here at my table, I have a key light, studio light right across from me here. And then right up on the back side, I got a backlight, or it's kind of like a side light, right? And so I have two main forces of light here, and then I have natural light because I have a full open, my patio is on this side and the whole screen is open. I got a big picture window, and all the light that's from outside is coming here. So you'll see that most of everything here is already lit, right? I would have to just do a little bit more to take care of this side of my face, but this part is cool. And then of course I have to raise this up to get more light into this part of my face. But when you're thinking about your photo, think about where is the light source. So should I position this person here? Could I put the dog here? Could I put whatever it is there? Now, a lot of times when you're shooting wildlife, you have no choice. They're there for a split second and you got to catch them when you can. But again, it goes back to something Nikki talked about. You always want to be positioned and be aware of your position as you are getting ready to point your lens. Wherever your lens is at, you want to get into that space, right? So you can make those different choices. All right. Thank you, Devin. Who's coming next behind you? Who are you picking, Devin?
Sierra.
All right.
Okay. Get this shared. Which one is it? Uh-oh. Hold on, I have a couple of screens up. I need to make sure I know which one I'm sharing.
No problem.
I think this is the one I want. Okay. Is it the picture with the flower?
It is a beautiful lavender purple. What is that?
I don't even know.
That's purple's my favorite color. That deep, beautiful purple. I love it. And I don't know what those are, but I would buy that. I would
Pretty
buy
neat.
that.
So obviously I put the ISO up. It was way too low. Definitely I'm kind of in Nikki's boat of I'm just gonna go to my phone right now. Or not Nikki, Chrissy's
Chrissy.
boat.
Mhm.
And very frustrated trying to get through a lot of it, trying to actually learn. I know you have to take 1,000 shots or whatever and learn and do all that stuff. And that's where I'm at, is that you want to go, oh, I took a class, I'm now taking the perfect picture, and don't realize you actually have to learn
You
the
have to
stuff.
practice, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I liked how the composition of it's very crisp on that flower, and how it really went blurry beyond it. I think it really stands out. I just wish it was that little bit brighter, and I had lightened up the ISO to get that brightness in there.
Again, post-production, you can do that. You probably can do it even now. You have all the information right there. You got the ISO, which was 50. That's real low outside. So that's
because
probably
yeah.
one of the main reasons why you have the low. But you also can, just lighten it up in post-production because everything's so sharp. And you got what? 125 on your speed. That's not bad. That's a nice slow speed. And 54 millimeter. Okay. Yeah, I think
So
you can work from there.
yeah. And so I did leave this one in the middle, not the rule of thirds, because of the kind of composition I was going for.
Yep. Break the rules, you still get something really cool.
So then I was playing with, it was getting darker. So I was trying to play with how you could actually crisply see the clouds. And I liked how this one kind of came out, that you could see the clouds, and the trees were kind of more nondescript and dark with the water tower poking through.
Yeah,
So
silhouette.
yeah, I kind of liked how that one came out with it, with how crisp the clouds ended up coming. Then I was playing with my neighbor's flagpole. This was the most crooked one. I wish it was tilted correctly. That was my only thing about this one. But what I did like about it is that the sky was again good, and that the flag, because obviously when you're catching something like this, you almost have to take the 100 shots just to get the flag in the right position, right? When the wind is gusting and you have something with the flag, you're constantly going, okay, flag hit a good position. So, I had all the ones where it kind of drapes down or it's folded over on itself. And so it just happened that when I got the good picture of the flag kind of coming out, I had tilted a little bit with doing it. So it was, interesting playing with the composition, especially of something also moving and trying to capture something still that is moving so much. So, I was making sure that my shutter speed was a little bit faster so I could get the crispness. I like how the lines of the red and white are still very crisp, and then also the clouds are well doing the crispness of it.
And you can see the stars too.
Yeah.
So again, post-production, all you gotta do is whip that bad boy just a little bit and it'll be straight.
Yeah. So that was, it was a fun trying to play with something that was moving like that as well, and to get it it's one thing to try and capture something when it gets blurry with it, but obviously with something like the flag, you want a little more crispness to it, and trying to capture that exact moment right when it actually is kind of out and furled is a little more challenging than I had thought, right? Because there is that little bit of delay that you sit there and go, okay, the wind caught it the right way, and you push it, and all of a sudden this was almost a little more of luck and trying to learn how the wind was coming, right, to actually capture it.
Yeah, a lot of patience is required.
Yep. So then I tried to do some of that like blooms close up, and I really got a lot of very blurry ones. This is the one that kind of turned out the best, and I really like that, these front flowers, that you have so much of the detail of the little stems that are coming out. And I do like that that did kind of blur around the outside. So I think you really see that detail in kind of these blooms that really did get crisp, because it's almost blurry around your eyes, like you said, didn't go to everything because all of them looked good. I think to me, my eyes still draw to those ones in the center because of their crispness.
So let me ask you a question. If you wanted all of them to be crispy, what would you have done? What's one part of the triangle you would have affected to get it all crispy?
I think if I remember correctly, the depth of field is the aperture. So I would have wanted a higher aperture, right?
Exactly. Yep. Higher depth of field, higher number. So if you would have had a f/22 on that, or a f/20 something, 30 something, all of it would have been crispy.
So then I actually put 3 pictures on here because one of the things I also was really playing with was kind of composition. So I put 3 different ones on here, and it was interesting to see what was interesting, I guess. So I did this barn straight on in portrait, and then I did the barn kind of offset again on portrait, and then I kind of did the barn in landscape with it. And so it's funny how just those couple little simple things of the same picture, this one almost seemed bland to me after a while, just that front end of a shot. So it was, I was seeing when I came back, what I actually liked about it. And I think my eye was more drawn also to the portrait of it because it shows how tall it is. Like for some reason, the barn looks taller and more majestic in the portrait mode versus landscape. So I think this was really fun for me, just really playing with a single piece and doing things like that, walking around it, taking it from different angles and taking it from different like portrait and landscape. And definitely kind of showed me that like, getting off center a little bit made it a more interesting shot. And I think the subject became more interesting in the portrait versus landscape. So again, sometimes even though you think you want the whole landscape in there, maybe it is something to shoot something in portrait and landscape to see how it comes out. Because I would have gone to, you know, landscape a lot of times. I think that's my goal when I'm looking at pictures instead of going to portrait.
Outstanding. I think that's true. And then too, the barn itself has almost like all the character with the colors and the strips and the stress on the wood and the little, you know, the door hinges and the fact that it's off the ground and it has stuff on it. So it has a whole bunch of story going on right there. And also you have the shadows right behind the roof, right? Back in that
Yep.
that well, it's more of a rectangle space right there. So cool.
And
All right.
then my last one was I started doing kind of that same thing with this flower box
Mhm.
of, you know, taking it head on and then taking it, you know, like straight on or kind of up at the angle so you could see up underneath. And so this was to me the best one of those shots. You know, it's at the angle. The other thing, you know, what you were commenting on the other night of making sure the hands. So in one of them, I was concentrating so much on the flowers, I chopped off the bottom of the flower box. So
Mhm.
it was, you know, I made sure and kind of brought it back out again and was like, nope, make sure the whole flower box is actually captured in there. Because you're right, it did do something to it when I kind of chopped off the bottom of this. And
Mhm.
then also that kind of angle, when I tried to look a little more straight on or down on it, not having that texture up underneath of it didn't add the interest as much. So I think, you know, it's not only the interest of the yellow and the pink flowers, which really did come out a nice crisp and the color is nice, but I like kind of how the interest of looking up into the flower box, but also on the angle really made it a more interesting shot. So
Yeah, I think that's 100%. And I like how you were able to triage the things that are, in most cases, are taught to be important, such as the fullness of the box and what's on the ground and what's in the foreground. And how do you see the ridges inside the, up underneath the, inside the rooftop of it, and even the wood pieces, you can see the striations on the wood, which again, character, it tells the story. You know, if it was anything on this photo that you would say I could maybe tweak just one more thing, what would it be?
the light on the left-hand side needs to go.
Well, you can take that out in post production because that's like a light, right? That's just like
Yeah.
that little L thing, right? So
Yep.
you can have everything pretty much naturally, you know, natural wood. Um, you know, I was thinking about how bright it is around the top,
Okay.
where you can hardly see the stuff in the background, right? Not that it's
Okay.
important, but I would probably say, okay, so could we take that ISO down, or could we take that shutter speed down just one little bit to get a little less light so you could see the clouds or the sky or whatever is behind there? It's a house back there, and it's kind of like I see one truss up, but I don't see the second truss. So more than likely, all of that's washed out,
Yep.
right? So that's something that I would say, but definitely inside when we do editing, you could just pull that little light bulb, I mean that little light right out of there and turn it into grass and make it look amazingly like it's never been there.
So
All
that's
right,
all I
that's it.
have.
Well, again, great job, Sarah. I like how you take the time to explain what you're looking for. And I also feel that, and you know, everybody in class, if what's one word that you can say to Sierra in reference to how her photos come out? Anybody get the word? Like what type of word would you use to describe her types of photos? Devin?
Detailed.
Detail, yes, I like that. That's good. And I want to add the word artistic. I think you have an artistic eye for your photography. It seems that you really think about like the pieces of them all making up the whole. And I think that's important for you because the first photo that you showed us, it was in the middle, but it had such richness with the details of the leaf and the stem and the pieces of the flower that I think that it would still capture someone at a gallery would walk by and stop to take a look at that photo. And especially if you put it on metal, like aluminum or some type of backlighting. They have this new stuff. It's like see-through, but you put a light behind it and it kind of really pops it out. So definitely something to consider, Sierra.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Devin.
All right. So who are we calling on next, Sierra?
Mike.
Mike. Guess what day it is? No, I know you heard that over and over.
I've heard that so many times. I don't have anything new actually. We've had some pretty hard broken jets at work, but I have some old stuff I took in manual. If you want me to share that, I can share that.
Whatever you decide. I mean, it's up to you. This is your learning. So if you now you probably know more about what you did in that, and you can go from there.
That's fine. I can share that stuff then. Let me pull some stuff up. So this is from last year. I went to Switzerland on a trip. And this is just like a waterfall. I really liked how the I don't know if you can see my mouse, but how the stairs kind of led up to, or the trail leads up to the waterfall. That's what I was trying to capture. But since taking the class, I can tell that like probably shouldn't have cut off the top of the mountain up here. Although like from my vantage point, I didn't really have much of a choice.
Yeah.
And the hut too is cut off and everything. But overall, this is what I was trying to capture. This is, my wife was going to kill me on this trip because I was determined to take everything in manual, which was, I was really slow with the settings at this point. So just trying to get through it.
Take the picture already. No,
yeah, like that's basically what it was. And this is what I came out with in post-production, but I was just trying to, that's the kind of the feel I was trying to get. These are just other photos. Yeah, I don't know which ones to show really, but here's just one of the valley. This is probably a little, just slightly underexposed after looking back on it. Also, I don't really know what the subject is, so I should probably try to work on that. I guess the subject would be just the valley, but you know, I don't. After looking at it since taking the class, I don't think there's really one spot where your eye goes. So
no, I mean, you definitely have it where you take us through the valley. So you're looking at the mountain range behind there. I don't know. Is that a waterfall too? Way back there?
Way up here. I'm not even sure. I can't even tell from this far out. It's been a while, but
it
I don't know
looks
if it is or
pretty
not.
distinct as far as that white line. So if anything, I would probably, post-production look at that. But yeah, okay.
I was trying to get let's see. There was, can't even find them anymore, but yeah. This is
could you show this cemetery looking one?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I can do that. This is where I was trying to catch. This is actually from behind the waterfall you saw earlier. And you can see the water droplets that it caught for that speed.
Yeah.
Like mist on this side and then just the water droplets. But yeah, the cemetery.
Yeah, those are being spaced out. So yeah, so this is a great example of, where you have the depth of field, you have, long depth of field, right? You got the front, you can actually see the names on some of the words on the tombstones, and then you can see the details of the trees back in the back, and then you can see the rock formation as well. So that's a long depth of field or high depth of field. So high F number more than likely, right?
Okay.
So cool. Again,
deal.
it's all so that you can know what your recipes are to get what the results that you're looking for. And it's obvious that you've been working on some things above and beyond what the class is, Mike. But at the same time, I think also like let's look at that one. Let's look at this one and
Right
tell
here.
me, yeah, what
Right.
would be what's something right off the bat?
The mountain is super exposed and I'm underexposed just the way the light is hitting. So I'm kind of blacked out in
Yeah,
the
you're almost a silhouette, right?
right.
So there's no light on your face or on your clothes or anything. And
Yeah.
so you could fix that with aperture, right? You could let a little bit more light in.
Yeah.
Maybe also this would be a good candidate for you to work on in post-production so you can brighten yourself out and kind of
Yeah.
change the tone so that you can see your outfit and it look like you might have a backpack on.
Yeah, yeah, I do. I know
Hmm.
it seems like it's tough this time. Like this was like midday
Yeah.
and snow is like bright white, right? So if you get me brighter, it almost whites out the back. So I don't know if it's more of an angle thing
Hmm.
or like settings like you were saying. What
It's
if you
both.
it's both? Okay, so
Yeah, I mean, the person is right there. If it's your wife, she's right there, right? If she
right.
would go over to the left and you just twist your body just a little, you probably would have got more light on your face because
Okay.
there's light on your cheek,
Right. Yeah, it is coming from the right side. Yeah. So I
on
see
your
what you're
ear.
saying.
That light would have been on your face and it would have been different for the
Okay.
photo, right? So cool things. And again, post-production, you can get rid of those the big old line that's going across the zip line or
Yeah,
whatever it is.
the
Yeah,
exactly.
you
Yeah.
can take those right out of there.
Right. This was just like an ice cave thing. Um, yeah, I don't know. We took a ton, so
Okay.
um, yeah, I'm not really. Obviously, these are like center subject, which I now know is a no go.
Again, it's not a no-go.
Right.
It's really up to you, right? But
Just trying
you
to find.
heard just now when Sierra said if it was off a little bit, it would have probably made it, when she put it off to the left just a little bit, it just made for a more dynamic photo. But you got some really nice photos and, just
Okay,
continue like that's a nice one too.
that's the one I was trying to get for the depth of field things and aperture and all that. I knew I took some zoomed in ones, I just couldn't find them, but here they are. Um, so actually, they are like the berries are a little blurry.
Hmm.
So probably just needed to work better on focus there. I think everything
Yeah,
else is probably fine.
everything
It's
else
just
was cool.
the focus. I probably didn't have the focus on either auto or the right one exactly
Remember
for it to
on a
grab.
close-up, you want to do what kind of focus if you're doing a close-up?
Uh, single point.
Manual. Yeah, it could be
Oh,
single,
manual. I
but it's
see.
manual because you're gonna fine tune because you're
Yeah,
close. It's a short
I
depth
think
of
it.
field.
I think because it was on auto, and I think it
Hmm.
grabbed this.
Yeah, it's
So that's
gonna
what.
grab all different stuff. It's
Right.
gonna look for the stem. It's gonna look for the leaf. It's gonna try to find. It's gonna be like, I think it's this,
Right.
and then
Okay.
it makes a decision. Unless you tell it, it won't know, right? And that's the intelligence working for you, which is cool. But in if you really wanted to crispy up this shot with the what are those called? Berries? The berries,
Some kind of berries.
then
I have no idea what they're
all
called. I
you would
just call
do
them.
is just tweak just a little bit on your ring, and you would have probably like you would have been like, whoa, because you would have got a little bit more detail even in your leaves,
Right.
right?
Okay.
Because the lines are there, but
Yeah.
they're not as crispy. Yeah, you would have had that too. So
Okay.
anyway, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for sharing. And so, Gail, do you have any questions? Because you didn't get a chance to do the exercise, or did you? All right. So um, we were focused on three major things, two priorities, actually four, if we count focus, because we focused on shutter priority and how does that affect the photo and aperture priority. And then we had manual. And we're now at the manual space where you're able to determine all three things that make up your basic photo. ISO being number one, shutter speed being number two, aperture, f-stop being number three. And they're not in any particular order. I just set them that way, right? But depending on what your final outcome is, if you want something blur as it goes by, or you want to catch the wings or something blurry or whatever, then Gail, what do you think would be the focus on those three things that I just mentioned? Where do you think that might have?
Speed.
Yeah, the speed, right? It's going to be the shutter speed. And so that's going to be important, right? And then you also know that you're letting more light in, you let less light in.
Right.
What's controlling that?
That's your, I don't know all the names for them, but
It's okay. Just use your best.
ISO,
Okay, yeah, f-stop.
f-stop.
Right. I heard
I'm
your
getting coached
helper.
over here.
I heard your coach. I heard he's like, f-stop. F-stop, baby. It's, it's all right. All right, cool deal. All right. So let's go into the lesson for tonight. I'm just gonna do quick update recap about, and then we'll roll into let me make sure this is in the right place here. Like, right, we got it up. All right, so share my screen. Bum, 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 bum. Green giant. All right, I'm gonna move the box out the way. Let me just help out. How's this? Is that in the way? Can you guys see the presentation? Or is it box in the way? Okay, good. All right, so we talked about a lot of things the other day, but the main thing is real quick, right? We looked at priorities, and we looked at shutter priority, right? And again, in this mode, when motion needs to be frozen or intentionally blurred, because the camera automatically picks the right aperture, how much is open or closed, and you determine the speed, right? Shutter priority. You're giving it that priority, and it's designated on your camera as a TS or S. So when you look at your modes that's on your wheel, you want to find that area. And like on my Canon, it's a TV. Um, all right. So very, very important there. The next thing that we talked about was aperture priority, right? Again, you are isolating the subject. You want to make sure you have the type of depth of field that works for you, right? So you may be, taking a very cool close up. You may be taking a portrait. Whatever it is, you don't want all the rest of the stuff to be a distraction to where you want your eye to go. So your aperture mode would be a pretty good mode to go for. The camera automatically picks your shutter speed for you, and you just focus on how much light you let in and how much depth of field. And again, F, just think of the F number. If you think about the F number and not think of depth of field in a sense of the definition and all that, just think this: low number, low depth of field, low F number, low depth of field, right? So if I know I don't want all that stuff, I'm going down to the 2s, the 5s, the 1s, the 1.4s. I'm staying way low as I can without losing, anything. And then if I know I want the whole thing, I want the beach, all the sailboats, the birds, and all the people on the beach, I want that whole big old scene, then I'm going with a higher F number, right? 35, 65, whatever your range is, you're going for it. And so keep that in perspective, right? And you allow your camera to do its work. And then we went to manual mode, which is your full service. You are making all the decisions. You're taking control of your what they call the exposure triangle, right? You're taking control of ISO. You're taking control of speed, shutter speed. You're taking control of the f-stop or aperture, right? That is you making the decision, all right? And someone talked about ISO. Again, it's the international organizational standard for how light hits that sensor. And I told you that if you're taking a shot and it looks dark, you're probably low. Just turn it up just a little bit. And this representation here shows that same shutter speed, same aperture, and all you did was change the ISO. This is the exercise I want you to do before it's dark. I want you to take your camera, go outside, take a shot, just whatever you want. Keep the shutter speed the same, the aperture the same, and only change the ISO. You have 10 minutes to go outside, do that, and come back and you're going to share that. So take 10 minutes, go outside, ISO only. That's all I want you to do. Don't do anything fancy. And I'll see you in 10 minutes. I'll set the alarm. All right, we should be coming back right now. And quick question, if you need a break, do you need a break? We'll do it after you show what happened with your ISO. All right, so we're gonna start with you, Mike, and then Sierra, and then Chrissy.
Okay. Bring this up real quick. Oh, let me hit share first. Okay. So I think you should be able to see the settings on the left now.
Okay.
So I just took the photo from the same spot pretty much just to play with the ISO, see what happens. So this is a 25 mil f8, 1/125. I kept all those settings the same. And then the ISO 1600 here.
Great.
Dropped it to 320. You can see, obviously, it blacked everything out. Even more at 200. And this is at 12,800. So
wow, you got a pretty big range.
Overexposed.
That's your high. That's your highest.
That the camera goes? No, it goes up to.
Oh, you got another higher. Okay.
It goes up really high, but I don't think you see anything.
Okay.
At this
12,000. Oh, that's pretty drastic though, from the low number to the high number. So you see the dynamic of having everything right, and then you're like, man, why is this wedding not doing what it needs to do?
You would think it was taken at like different times a day, but realistically it's the same time, just different ISOs.
It's the same thing that they do in Hollywood. You watching the film, you might be thinking it's filmed in the daytime and it's not, or vice versa. I was in a film, they brought these big giant, I mean, they had lights that was as big as my living room, and it was nighttime, and we filmed this day shot. It was a morning shot of coming in the city, getting out of a taxi, and in doing so, I was in the middle of Los Angeles with all this stuff. And when you see it on the film, you're like, whoa, looks like daytime. So this is what they do. They use and manipulate the ISO. Right?
Okay.
And so you might need to do that one day because you want a nice evening shot, but you don't have the time to come in the evening. So you might use your ISO to give it a low light type environment.
Okay.
Cool. All right.
Cool.
Thank you, Mike. Sierra?
So one of the things that I've really enjoyed about this class is how everybody interprets things completely different without specific directions. So it's funny because Mike took it from the extremes and I only went from like 100 to 800, tried kind of staying in what your triangle was. So it's funny, like how we all kind of find different ways to do the same thing, because it never would have kind of dawned on me to really hit the extremes with it. So I kind of started out at the ISO 500. Oops, wrong way. So there's 500. 800 was starting to get with just what I had it at, which is f11 and 1.6. It started getting a little too bright for me at the ISO 800 on this one. So that's why I didn't go higher with what I just started my settings at than the 800, because everything really started getting super bright up towards the top of it. So then I started playing with it down the other direction back to 100, and you know how dark it really got in there. 160 kind of was a nice depth of color that I kind of liked on there. And then this was 320, which was, you know, some of the medium where you still have some of the light stuff to it. This is almost with the settings I kept, you know, still starting to get a little bright up towards the top. So yeah, definitely with whatever settings you start out with, definitely plays with how it ends up going, because even that 800 starts almost getting a little bit too bright. It's more these mid ranges and lower ranges for the ISOs that I pick just because of my starting settings.
Yep. So great lesson right there. And thank you, Sierra. As soon as you know that you're going to take these shots, you're going out to do this particular shoot, then go ahead and take a shot just as you have it set up. Check your ISO and see where are you. Are you at the lower end, higher end, high range, or somewhere in the mid? The best place to start is the mid range, and then go down or up based on what you see. If you see that you know you have clouds and you can't see clouds, you already know you're overexposed. But if you're overexposed at the top and the person's down here and their face disappears, then you're going to have to compensate somewhere. So more than likely, leaving that alone and still having white light on their face is going to make the big difference, right? So, okay, cool deal. All right, Chrissy.
I don't know why my 100 is so dark, because you can't even see it.
That's okay.
So
There's a photo in there.
Yeah.
There's something there.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see the leaves sort of. And then this was 200, 800, and then I did 1600. And then
what was your shutter speed set on?
Shutter is at 1/20.
Okay, so it was pretty low, right? So it wasn't as big as it could have been. So if you had it down to a low number, you probably would have had more light coming in, so they would have changed all this dynamic. But go ahead.
Yeah, and then it just daytime basically it looked like on the highest level. So 6400 is as high as my camera goes.
That's good. Well, now you know. But again, what would change that too is if your f-stop was somewhere in the middle, like a f5, 5.6, somewhere in there, and then go through this whole thing. So if I, I would do it again and look at that with your shutter being mid-range as well, and see how much difference you get with your high range.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Devin.
All right. So this is 100. I started from middle, I mean the bottom, and then like 2 in the middle, and then 1 in the highest.
Okay, great.
So this is 100. Then I went to 2000. This is 3200, and that's 6000.
Now, this is nighttime, almost dark outside. It's getting down to the nitty gritty, and your camera was able to still capture all those colors at the high number, right? And so I would definitely, you still got blues in the sky. You still have the whites on the leaves. You still have the wall. You even have this colorful thing that's down by the bottom of the
Oh yeah.
frame, right?
Mhm.
So you got all of that information. If you go back to, again, of course, you would have to set the camera in the same spot.
Yeah.
But you see now it's all silhouette, right? You
Uh-huh.
hardly barely have any type of like information about the plant or whatever. You know it's a tree. We kind of know it's leaves, but look at the sky. Look at the difference in the sky. Turns it into an ominous cloud, right?
Mhm.
Whereas really a nice little blue cloud. All right, cool. Okay. And so, Gail, I want to call on you, but I need to preface it first. Are you familiar with how to share your screen on Zoom? Okay, so your right-hand man is going to take care of business. All right, because that has taken up time and we don't want to do that tonight. But I really want to see what you got. So go for it. And you can unmute and talk to us about what you were taking when you took the shots. And remember, you want to bring the whole thing up first, then share it to everybody.
Give us a second.
Okay.
Basically, I didn't know what I was doing. I snapped off a few pictures, but it
Put it back
Didn't-
in here. This chip.
it wasn't the lesson you were trying to teach, because it was just me doing automatic. Wrong side. This way, that way. Okay. I gotta find out what all the buttons are on my camera.
Yes, you do. You gotta make sure you know your
No,
camera.
yes, it doesn't help to try to do something if you don't know what each of the buttons do.
Like, hey, how do I turn this thing on?
That part I understand. It says on and off.
Okay.
The rest of them a little shaky. You got it?
I think so. All right, so if we go back into Zoom. Right there.
Maybe not.
So on your Zoom,
Here,
you're gonna be down at the
it says
bottom.
share.
You say share, hit that button. There you go. And wow, that's nice.
That's not what you wanted.
That's my background picture.
You're amazing. Look at that. Look at the, oh gosh, I don't know what to say.
I wish I could claim credit for that.
Whoa, look at that horse. Okay. Denmark. Sweden? Where were you?
No, these are all just backgrounds that
Oh,
came with the
okay.
computer. I don't do
Okay.
computers either.
All right.
My other camera that died, well, actually it got lost. We think someone stole it. Was just point and shoot.
Okay,
This
you should be able
this
to
one's a
double click
computer.
on the thumbnail and it should open up. Just
He's
like
got
double
the-
click. There you go.
Okay.
All right. And then down at the bottom, you go from one to the next, to the next, to the next. So you can start
Not
out
that
wherever
way,
you
go that
want
way.
to start.
It
Okay.
doesn't matter.
Could you do me one more favor? At
What's
the
that?
top, make it larger. Yeah, right there. There you go. So talk to us. Beautiful flowers, by the way.
Those are my pride and joys.
What are they
Okay.
called?
Those are irises.
Irises. Wow. Is that blue? That's a blue, right?
It's
I mean,
actually a
that's
purpley blue, yeah.
purpley blue.
And I've got some yellow ones, but they haven't come out yet.
Iris.
I don't know. I was too busy trying to figure out. That's what I'm telling you. I totally flubbed it. You can show them the pictures, but I can't
Well, no problem. So the idea was, what was your ISO? And you said you had it on auto
It was on auto and it just,
the whole time,
I was
but
trying
I
to
do,
figure out which dial to push and I wasn't making it.
no problem.
No.
We'll meet after class and we'll talk about those buttons.
Yeah,
But
I've got a
let's,
manual somewhere, but I managed to lay it down. I'm getting senile and I lose things,
okay.
unfortunately.
Well, we're gonna slow the senile part down. We're gonna
Okay,
give you
thank you.
some stuff, some tools to work with, and I think that you'll be able to find it all and stuff like that because they have it
Bless you for your
online.
patience.
Yeah, it's a blessing.
It
So
is.
let's go to the last one. I just want to see the difference in the last one. Yeah, that one. Okay. So although you used auto, you could see the background, you could see the difference of what the camera did. Now, you
Mm,
may have seen light one way, but your camera's going to see light a different way, and it's
different
going to
way.
pull in as much light as possible to give you this shot. And as you can see, if you was to get the information off of this photo, you're going to find that you had a low depth of field. And the reason how you know that is you can see the leaves and you can see the stems for the group that's really close forward to the lens and
Okay.
middle of the photo. And then you could look at the trees and the leaves and everything in the back, and you could notice that they're all out of focus, right?
Right.
Including the grass that's right up next to it to the left. So that gives you an
That's actually
indication.
more, those are more flowers that just haven't bloomed yet.
Okay. Well, it gives you the indication that your camera decided this is what's going to be
Gonna be
focused in.
focused on.
This is going to be where we're going to put the light, and this is
Right.
what we're going to do for depth of field. So it made all those decisions for you.
Decisions for me.
Yep.
Okay.
Go over 4 to the left. I mean, 4 more. Go over to the fourth one. Yep. Right there. Well, yeah. The one right behind it.
Back.
That one. Yeah. All right. Notice the light difference there compared to. Now go back to the one that you just went to. The one in front. Yep. See the difference?
Yes.
Again, your camera's making decisions, and that's all based on where you were standing and how you actually
Well, I
just
was
changed.
twirling buttons while I was trying to stay still because you said take them from the same spot and the same
Mhm.
distance and everything. So I was trying to stay still, but I was twisting buttons. So
So
I
you
don't know
was
if it was
twirling the little
its
buttons
decisions
that's
or
on top.
I was playing with several different buttons and I'm not sure which one did
All
what.
right. But did you have one that you kind of can go like this that moves at all? That would be your exposure button, right? So you would be able to actually go up or down. It's called exposure compensation. And you might have touched that because you didn't do much on everything else, right? All right, go all the way to your the first one. 1, 2, 3. Yep, that one. And so we see, what is this called? Tulip?
That's the same time. It's just a slightly different variation of the same plant.
Oh, okay. So that's an iris too?
That's a Dutch iris. Yes.
Oh, okay. So where was the other iris? New York?
I don't remember the name of the other
Okay.
ones,
I'm
but
gonna
they're
call it a New York
they're
iris.
giant ones.
I'm gonna call it a New York iris for right now because it's my kind of iris. So
Okay.
all right. So next one over. And did you use your flash?
No.
Okay, so this is all your camera making decision. One more. All right, and you notice everything is out of focus except for right in the middle
The
of
middle.
the Dutch iris.
It was picking up on the flowers.
Yep, that's all it's doing. So, and that's all your autofocus was doing this. And it was like, okay, I think we want this. Boom, and it made a decision. All right. So good deal. Was that all you had to share right there?
Well, I've got more pictures on there, but they're not from today. They're
Right. I'm talking about from tonight. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna stop sharing right there.
okay.
Thank you, everybody. That was everybody, right? We didn't have nobody else showed up. Okay. And I did get a notice from Nikki that she was not feeling well.
Oh,
So
no.
she wasn't gonna make class tonight. But okay, good deal. All right. So this last part of tonight is going to talk about that light and what you can do. So let me first go to one other video that I pulled up for you guys. That there is a magazine called Photography, what's it called, Photography Life. And in Photography Life magazine, they do some really cool stuff in there. They do a lot of new techniques and all that kind of stuff. And I would encourage you, if you go to like Barnes and Noble, you can pick it up, or you can go online and find it. And they do have a really robust website of Photography Life. And so they did they had one of their top, they bring in different photographers to talk about stuff. And the thing that I wanted to just solidify and deal with was depth of field before we moved on, because if anything, it's when people want something in focus and other stuff out of focus that they run into an issue or challenge. So let's watch this quick little video before we go into lighting.
Depth of field is one of the most important topics in photography. Personally, when I pick my camera settings, I base almost everything around my depth of field. So what is depth of field and how can you use it to take better photos? Well, let's start with the definition. When you focus on something in photography, like a flower, other parts of that photo are going to be out of focus, like the background behind the flower. Depth of field just describes what parts of your photo are in focus and what parts are out of focus. And depth of field is not a point. Depth of field is a plane. I like to think of it as a window positioned in front of your lens, and anything that the window passes through in your photo is going to be in focus. And you can move this window forward and backward, which is called focusing, so that it intersects with your subject. Something else that you can do is change the thickness of the glass in this window example, and that's called changing your depth of field. So if it's a portrait photo, maybe you want a really thin window or a really shallow depth of field so that you can place your focus on your subject's eyes. And at that point, maybe even their ears are going to be a little bit out of focus and the background is going to be way out of focus. On the flip side, if it's a landscape photo, maybe you want a huge depth of field so that the closest object in your foreground and a mountain way off on the horizon are both going to look sharp. And that's definitely also possible. You just need to know how to change depth of field. So how do you change depth of field? Well, there's 3 different ways to do it, and actually all 3 of them relate to your lens. You've got aperture, focal length, and focusing distance. Now it's easier to explain by demonstrating how the 3 of them work, so let's start with aperture. Aperture is this opening in your lens that can change size. When the opening is wide, it gives you more of a shallow depth of field, and when the opening is narrow, it results in a lot more depth of field. That's a pretty dramatic change. Now the next factor is focal length. When you zoom in but you don't change anything else, depth of field starts to get shallower and shallower. Take a look at the detail in the background of these 2 photos. It's a really big difference between 24 and 70 millimeters. And then we've got focusing distance. Basically, the farther away that you focus, the more depth of field that you get. You can see that as I spin focus into the distance, we went from a really shallow depth of field in the foreground to almost a more traditional landscape photo where everything from the lake to the horizon looks pretty sharp. So those are the 3 factors, but how do you use them to get the depth of field that you want? Well, here's a couple of examples. First, a photo with a shallow depth of field. In this case, I used all 3 factors combined to get this shallow focus effect. So I was using a 17 to 55 millimeter f2.8 lens, and I started by zooming all the way in to 55 millimeters. Then I used the widest aperture on my lens, f2.8, and then I focused on a subject that was really close. So the result is a photo that has a shallow depth of field. But I've taken a lot of photos with this lens, and some of them have much more depth of field. Here's one example, and this time I zoomed out to the widest focal length on my lens, which is 17 millimeters. I focused a lot farther away, I don't remember exactly, but probably around here. And then I used a much narrower aperture of f11. All of those factors combined to give me a large depth of field, which is exactly the look that I wanted in this photo. Now, there's going to be cases where you're kind of fighting to get the right depth of field, and those 3 factors might not all be working in your favor. For example, maybe you're trying to capture a landscape photo with a lot of depth of field, but when you compose the photo, you realize that you really like how it looks with a telephoto lens. In that case, of course, you're zoomed in a lot, which shrinks your depth of field, and to compensate, you would really need to be careful with the other 2 factors. You would definitely want to use a narrow aperture like f11 or f16, And maybe what you'd also do is back up a little bit from your foreground so that you don't have to focus quite as close. I've taken a lot of telephoto landscapes this way. It's definitely possible. It just requires a little bit of extra attention. But sometimes you still aren't going to be able to get enough depth of field, or the opposite problem, you might want a super shallow depth of field, but you've already pushed those 3 factors to the limit and it's still not enough. And that's what I'm going to talk about next. How do you get a depth of field beyond the ordinary limits of your lens, whether you want to extend your depth of field more than normal or get a shallow depth of field? Well, like most things in photography, there is a way to do that, and I'm not just talking about buying a different lens. Instead, these are the 2 techniques that you really need to know. The first one is called focus stacking, and it's a pretty straightforward way to extend your depth of field. Basically, you take multiple photos focused at different points, and then you combine together the sharpest parts of each photo. That's what I did right here. It wasn't possible to get this entire close-up photo to be sharp at once unless I stood so far back that it wasn't even a close-up anymore. So instead, I put my camera on a tripod and I started focus stacking. In the end, I took 10 different photos which are all focused at slightly different points. For example, the first picture is focused right here and the final photo is focused right here. And because nothing in this scene was moving, it was really easy to blend those 10 photos together in Photoshop to get a picture with more depth of field than I otherwise could have gotten. And this focus stacking technique is really popular for macro photography and landscape photography in situations where you're pushing your depth of field to the limit. The only big drawback with focus stacking is that nothing in your photos can be moving, or you'll end up with some really weird blending artifacts when you try to create that stack. So I definitely do recommend taking a single photo of that same composition, even if it's just for backup, in case your focus stack doesn't work out. Now the other technique, if you want a super shallow depth of field, is called the Brenizer method panorama. And it's actually just an ordinary panorama, except that your goal isn't to get a super wide view, it isn't to get a lot of resolution, instead it's to get a super shallow depth of field. So here's how it works in practice. This is my 24 to 70 millimeter f4 lens, and that maximum aperture of f4 doesn't really give me a super shallow depth of field. At 24 millimeters and f4, this is the shallowest depth of field that I can get at this composition. But if I zoom in to 70 millimeters and I photograph this exact same scene as a multi-row panorama, here's how that looks when I assemble the image. Much shallower depth of field, and clearly there's a big difference side by side. Now, of course, the Brenizer method panorama is not a perfect technique either, because you do need to take the time to capture a panorama and then stitch the whole thing together in post-production. But it definitely does work if you need that shallow depth of field.
All right, so I'm not going to let him keep that because that's going to be confusing. But there are some other methods to increase the depth of field. But what I really wanted you to get out of that was how important it is to focus out and then bring it back to take your photo. I think you'll get the kind of sharpness that you're looking for. And so I will be putting that link in when you guys get your follow-up information from after your exercise, and you'll go from there. Okay, so do you guys need a bio break? Everybody good? Thumbs up. Keep going. Keep it going. Okay, cool. All right, so here we go. Oh wait, let me make sure I got the right thing here. Okay. Shoot, where's my zoom? Zoom. All right, so we've gone over quite a bit. Remind yourself that you do have what's called the exposure triangle, and you have this little quick layout of things to help you really see where you are. I would definitely print that out somewhere, take it with you when you go in places, because you can quickly triage a shot just by looking at these 3 different pieces of the recipe. Is it too much in focus in the back? Do I have all the depth of field that I want? Or no, I don't want that. Hey, I need that f5.6 somewhere in there. Hey, I got blur. I definitely want some wing blur. I don't want the whole thing blurry. I need that 160, all right? And then I don't want a bunch of grainy or what we call noise on this photo, so I'm sticking to somewhere between 200 and 400, or if I can even go bump it down to 100, I will, right? So I'm making decisions based on that. And again, that's just a recipe, right, to help you get what you need. All right, so the power of light. There are some internal meters that are already inside your camera. I need you to turn your camera on and find what you have, your metered light settings, right? If you got to go through your menu, go through your menu, whatever you need to do. If you don't have your manual, that's okay. Just go through your current setting so that you can follow this lesson a little bit, right? Now, I am not telling you that you need to use one over the other, but what I am going to share with you is that it's very important to know which one you are using, because it's going to make a difference on how the light shows in your photos. This example is right here in front of you where you have spot. Look at what's really happening with the light in the spot evaluation, right? Versus the center. Center and spot are two different things. And so when you think about light, the camera tells the light, go here. I want you to be here, or I want you to be there, right? And if you really want light to splash all over and nice and even light, it's usually that center light. If you notice on the far left, the model is holding up the camera, right? And you can see the highlights in hair. You can see light on the face, the fingers, the watch. Pretty even over the photo. If you go to evaluative, of course, there's different sizes, different ones for evaluative, but you're going to notice that it's a little dark in certain places. And then, because what's happening is your light meter that you have that's already built into your camera is making some decisions and saying, hey, here's what we need the light, here's where you don't need the light. This seems to be the best evaluation for lighting that we can have. And then, of course, you have the spot light, which is important as well, right? So when you think about spot metering, it's like a partial metering, but spot metering usually only has a dot in the center, and it's not in the whole frame. It's not looking at light from the frame. It's only looking at light in this one little spot. And you'll have spots. You'll have these little indicators that will show you where the light is, and it really flashes real quick. In my camera, it flashes red right real fast to let me know, hey, all of this light is getting evaluated and it's across this part of the actual inside of the frame. Now, when you look at center weighted average, right, it's like, okay, I'm going to look at the light and then I'm going to average it out, and I'm going to make a decision that this is how much light I need coming in there, right? And again, your camera does this decision. It gets the reflected light, it gets the natural light, it gets the camera light, it gets all the lens light. It takes all that stuff into consideration. You don't have to think about it. It just makes the decision and gives you what it evaluates it to be, right? And then you have this one that I was talking about earlier, which is evaluative. Now, okay, Canon and others may call it something else. In this case, it's called evaluative for Canon. Matrix is what Nikon, however you say that. I've been saying Nikon most of my life. Collects the data from across the entire frame. Notice that it evaluates all the light from across the entire frame, and it makes a decision on how much light is going to go onto the sensor to help with that photo. Right. And then the last one is partial metering mode, where it says, hey, I'm just going to get this one little spot over here. I'm not getting everything. Right. And again, it only covers 10 to 15% of the entire scene. And you might need that because you're trying to do some kind of dramatic indoor shot with a flower or a rose, or you're at a botanical garden and you got a fence, or you got, you're at the zoo, and you just want that light to just be freshly on your subject, but you don't want all the rest of the light. And so you can create this really cool feeling around your photo based on the light and how it reads. Now, I'm not telling you to run out and get a light meter, but if you had an external light meter, you'll have these things on there and you can test them around in your subject and where you are. Do you have too much light? Is it going to be not enough light? Do you need to change it? And etc. Okay. Again, the internal camera meters measures the reflected light, which means they're not actually reading the light that falls on the scene, but the light that reflects off the scene. So it's not reading all the light in the room, it's reading what's light is hitting the subject. Okay. Very, very important, because if you don't have enough light on the subject, then you're going to have to get a reflector. You're going to have to get something. Even this white paper right here, you can have this paper where it will reflect light based on where you put it. All right, it will reflect. And in most cases, you just put that off, off the scene, so to speak, or off camera, and it's still right there, and the light is reflecting into the dark spaces or things of that nature. So you can get big reflectors, you can get light reflectors, you can get mini reflectors. It has a number of different types that you can get, and it will help you with your lighting. Now, when you're in sunlight, there's a thing you need to pay attention to, which is called harsh light shots. Now, depending on how you use the harsh light, you can get some really cool stuff. So again, harsh light, bring that bad boy down so that it doesn't allow so much in, right? So you can do that. The other thing is, when you have harsh light on the front of the subject, you might have to fill flash. That's when you turn your flash on and you flash it to just bring light into those little shadowy spaces, right? And you use it with a fill flash. And you could have an external flash too, where it's synced up to your shutter, so that when you hit the shutter, it sends off the light. Sometimes it's a delay and you need to have it on delay, because again, the camera lens is going to go fast. Light is quicker, so it's hitting in that space. Some people use strobe lights, right, to do that. But the fact is, when you have harsh light shots, you can use reflectors and you can use your camera in a way that will help you. And then don't be afraid to try back sunlight. It adds drama and feeling and emotion to the shot if you set it up correctly, right? Again, composition is so important. Don't just take the photo and forget about rule of thirds and perspective and composition, because I mean, you're taking the time to get this shot in the first place. Why not, do the best that you can? You can also have overexposure of the sun. So that's why we say be careful between 11 and 1. So the best time is always sunrise into that time frame, and then sunset down in from after 1 o'clock, 1:30. Depending on what you read, you'll see 1, you'll see 1:30. I just say stay within that window of 11 and 1 and you should be fine. Not saying that you don't take shots, just know that's the high point of the light. And when you're doing like I do, most of my shots are natural light. Even if I'm taking photos of people, I want to do it in a natural environment, because these artificial lights change the color. They put a yellow hue or a bright hue or whatever. The LED lights are just like blowing everything out. So just be aware of that as you think about how you're taking the shot, how you're setting the shot up. So let's look at this same thing here, right? Same setting, no changes on the setting, right? But where is the light coming from for this model, right? You have these things called the standard 3-point lighting. You'll see this on television, you'll see this in movies, and then you'll see it in other places where people have their studio already preset, right? And so this is a way for you to determine where you want light to go. And remember, we're talking about reflective light right? Because we're not using the light to throw it into that space. We're using the light that's there, right? And we're telling the camera to look here for the light, right? So you have what's called rim light. And rim light is pretty cool, just like it says that it is. It's just enough light to kind of show you that something's there, and it kind of, you know, it kind of obscures the rest, right? And again, drama really happens with this type of photo. Let's say you're shooting products, right? You're doing product shots, and you have your black screen and you have your black velvet tarp and all this kind of stuff, and now you just only use a rim light, and you just barely shine a rim light on your product, and it just makes it pop. It adds a mystery to it. Okay, now again, moving up, same setting. I talked about this earlier, is your key light. That's what I have in front of me. It's a key light. It's about 6 feet. No, it's about 5'11" high, coming at me here. And then, of course, I have some lights to the side, which I would call, other rim lights or types of rim lights, right? So again, you want this key light. And then when you take both, you have something to fill the gaps, and you have your key light. And that's where you have the key in the rim, giving you that really cool, rich color. Now, what would need to be done here for this model is reflective, will reflect down up into the neck area and kind of light that up so you don't have such a big shadow under his neck, because shadows are very distracting in some cases, or you really want the shadow because it creates drama, and it creates, artistic features of what your subject is, right? So you will be the determining factor of how that is. On your assignment tonight, going into next week, you're going to use the power of light. I'm going to ask you to shoot in different lighting situations, right? This is called external and internal. I want you to take some internal shots, right? Currently, your camera is probably going to say, I need a flash, and we're not doing any flash photography. So that's cheating. If you add a flash, then you're cheating. What I like you to do is take the photo based on whatever light you have in that space. So if you take the photo in your living room of your vase or whatever it is, then use the light that is coming from that only. Don't add nothing else to it, okay? If you have studio lights that you purchased, then of course you can add more lights to that. But I really want you to just use what lights are in the room, right? So you have your cat or your dog or your child or your, in your case, you might have a little figurine that you want to use for this exercise. By all means, do it. What I want you to do is set up a scene. I want you to have a flat surface, table, or something like that that is away from the wall, because I want you to have depth of field. I want you to be able to have some depth. Okay, you're gonna set this thing up where it could be anything. I mean, I got right here, I have my Bose speaker, right? I could put my speaker there, or I have my Ravens hat, so I could put my hat there, or I have my my glass. I can put my glass. Whatever it is that you choose to use, even your mouse, right? You put it there, and what I'd like you to do is you're gonna take some photos using only the light that's in the room. And your goal will be to be like as center in front of the subject as possible. You're going to take shots that are where you are in front of the subject directly, right? And then I want you to you're gonna be on manual mode. You're gonna be on manual mode, right? You're on manual mode. You're gonna set your ISO to middle or low, because you're inside. So therefore, you're going to have, excuse me, I said that backwards. When you're inside, you need more. So you're going to set it middle or maybe 1 or 2 ISOs up, okay? Because you want as much light to get found through your lens as possible. Then you're going to think about your shutter speed, right? Because your shutter speed is going to say, how long can I be open to allow the light in, right? If you have to refer to your exposure triangle, then do so, okay? And then it shuts down. And then I want you to think about, what f-stop do I need, right? What f-stop do I need to get more light in or less light in, depending on what kind of light you have, all right? Whatever you turn on, kitchen light, if it's fluorescent, condensate light, if it's like condensate, regular LED lights, if you have them, just use whatever source that you have, but don't add no light source to it, right? So I want you to go away and do that. So here's some of the standard lighting, and this is a 3-point lighting where you have your key light, remember the one that's in front, and then you might have a fill light, like this is a fill light. This light that's off to the left here, it's just a standard light in my house, but it's giving me fill because now I don't have light on this side because it's dark outside now. I don't have my natural light coming in from the balcony, right? So I would probably need fill light on this side. And then, of course, if I really want to get some drama, I would have backlighting. And that's going to be the light on the back of the subject coming over the shoulders, washing into the front. You have some side fill light there, and then you have your front light here. So you have 3 sources that are keeping the light as even as possible so that you can enjoy, so the photo comes out as, crispy and nice as you can. All right. So I'm going to ask you to set your light to, let's go with evaluative. And on your camera, it could have a bunch of different things, but it should be on evaluative, okay? I really want you to kind of focus on evaluative. And, later on we can do spot and other things, but right now I really want you to focus on that, okay? And so it might look like this, where you have like 4 little boxes and a little round thing, or it might look like this, where you have a dot and these little circle-y things, but they're not always around, that kind of thing. So I don't know what's in your camera, but find it. And then I want you to go off right now for the next 10 minutes, 10 minutes total. You got a couple minutes to find your object, set it up, and take some photos. I want you to take at least 5 photos, right? 5 indoor with a subject. It could be small, large, medium, depth of field. So take it away from the wall so there's no like up against the wall stuff, right? And I want you to take it from right in the center, right as, on it. Now, wherever the light source is, make sure that that light source is either in front of you, right? In front of the subject, or right over the subject, okay? We want it as close to the subject. And if it's right on top over it, then you want to move it to the front just a little bit so that that light shines on the front of that object, whatever that object may be, cat, dog, or gloves, or whatever you use, okay? And then take 5 photos. The purpose of this is to indoor see where your ISO is set up, and then how much more shutter do you need to open or close? What are your main f-stops? So within that five shots, you should be able to find your middle ground for your ISO, and then 1 or 2 of your shutter speed and 1 or 2 of your f-stops. If you need to do more, go for it. But the goal is 5 to 7, 10 max. You should be able to catch it within the first 5 to 7 shots. So let's keep it at that, 5 to 7, and then come back and we'll share. And then I have a couple other little things to talk about lighting, and then we'll prepare for next week. All right, so let me make sure there's no questions. Any questions? All right, I'm going to pause the video All right, we're coming on back. How's everybody doing? Not too bad. I'm gonna take a little quick shot of the screenshot here. Should work out. All right, so let's hear from Gail. Show us what you got, Gail. Hello? You guys need more time or are you okay? Gail? Are you going to share?
Yeah, we'll share.
Okay, all right, okay.
Just trying to
Okay. All right.
Not the one. That's
not the
Oh,
one.
that's
starting
it.
right there.
Give me a second. Starting right there.
That was
Okay.
the 3 lights.
All right.
Was light. This is a light on either side of them, and then the light from the camera.
Okay.
And the next one, we dimmed the light a little bit in the on the left-hand side, and then we got this one,
And your
All
ISO
right.
is
So
6400.
what was your,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I want to know, your
6400.
ISO. Okay. So that was your highest number, right? 6400, or is it, you got
It's-
more?
We had more.
We had more.
Okay, okay. But 6400 is pretty high for indoors. So,
Okay.
all right. And then you went down to what here?
Lowered the lights. Same ISO. We just changed the light.
Did you change the light in the room or did you change your ISO?
Changed the light
Change
in
the
the room.
light in the room.
All right.
I
So
have
we
different
want,
switches on my lights.
yeah, I want you to keep the light
The
the same in the
Okay.
future.
I'm
'Cause
sorry. I
you're
missed
trying
that.
you're trying to figure out your camera, not the lighting in your house,
Lighting
right?
in the house.
So whatever
Gotcha.
light you start with, go with that
That's
light
what you go with.
and then change your ISO. Because again, you're now on manual mode, Gail.
Right.
You're no longer
So it's
on
up to me to pick the lighting and not the
it-
camera. Gotcha.
100%. You're making decisions. Okay? Was that all you got?
That's
Yeah.
pretty much it.
All right, for right now, yeah, we're good to go. I appreciate you getting that done. So, what did you learn, or what kind of, where did you get stuck? What was happening for you when it came to this?
Basically not understanding all the instructions you gave me.
Okay, all
With
right. So
not
I got to
changing
be
the lighting.
clearer with
No,
the
no, I need to be clearer. It wasn't you.
Okay. Yeah, don't forget, ask questions if you're not. And I gave everybody my phone number, but I'm gonna put it in the chat again for you so you can reach out, right?
Thank you.
That way, you got, I mean, I still work full time, but I do check a text message faster than an email. So if
Okay.
you really want my attention, you got to send me a text message because
Okay.
it might be
Well-
all day before I get to some emails. I still haven't checked my email from my personal account today. I've been at a retreat for
I
for
may
work.
have some more help on hand because my son saw me taking pictures and he's grabbing the camera away from me saying, "No, Mom, don't do it that way, do it this way."
Okay.
He's more technically inclined than I am, so I might
Well,
have some
I
help.
want
And
you to
he's
want you
got
to
the
take it
patience to
back.
he's got the patience to slow it down and explain it to me as well.
All
My
right.
husband,
Well,
not so much.
no problem. But here's what I want to say to you. I really need you to be in control of your camera.
Right.
Right. I know you have
That's
people
the
around you
aim.
to help you, but you took this class so that you can get better.
Right.
And it builds on, each thing builds on the next thing. So
Right.
if you miss one part, and you probably won't see the next part, but we do a review like we did today, so you'll
Okay.
see it. But I really
Okay.
want you to listen to them and hang out with them and all that stuff. But when you're doing your assignment, be like, okay, I'll
Push
get
them
back to
away.
you. Let me take care of this.
Gotcha.
Because you got to be the one that's able to
Figure out what I'm
actualize this.
doing. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Okay, Devin, I see you're next. So go for it.
All right.
Oh, cute.
I gotta focus more, getting steady when I'm getting ready to take the picture. As you can see the light in the on the side.
Yeah, and I really want you to practice like creating depth of field behind your subjects. How far away is it from the light? I mean, from the wall. It looks like it's pretty close
Yeah, it's like right in the middle
of the little table thing.
yeah.
Yeah, so I want you to, because you need to have more depth so that you
Hmm.
can see how it changes with the light when you
Okay.
have a space behind you and what happens to light. But this is fine for now. We're gonna go with Rudolph and make things happen. All
Got
right.
it.
So that was what? That was your lowest or down low to
I did
your
I did like three of them was like
uh
it was 4,200, like just
wow.
close upper to the middle.
Okay. 4,200.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Yep, that's
So
42.
that one that you just showed us was 4,200. That was your middle?
No, it was like the closest
Close
no,
to the
it was
middle
more
though.
close to six. It was close to the higher one. My
Oh,
bad.
okay. Close to
Yeah,
6,000. Okay, cool.
yeah.
All right. All right.
Yeah, I got that one. That's also 42. That's 42 as well. And then I moved it up to 6,000.
Okay. So did you try going down any at all or
No, I
you,
didn't.
you didn't?
I
Okay.
didn't.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure I was what I
Yeah.
was looking for. Cool. All right. Well, you want to practice that so you can see because when you get ready to take, I'm going to give you guys assignments. Next week, you're going to have actual, like, go shoot this, right? Go shoot that, specific things. I want you to go take a photo of. Like, it might be trees, it might be plant life, ants, whatever. I got a list of things. And then we're going to come back and then see how all this plays. It's going to be inside and outside, inside and outside. Right. So keep that in mind. All right. Okay. Next person I see on my screen is Chrissy.
Okay. My Lego cake that I got for my
Yeah,
birthday
that's
from
cool.
my
I like it.
son.
Who put
So
that
this is
40 on there though? They put the wrong number, right? It's supposed to be
yes, I
29.
think so too.
Supposed to be like
Yes, that's
29,
exactly what I
30. Yeah,
said.
yeah. I was like, what the world?
Um, okay, so this was I did all of them at 3,200, I think, because it was pretty dark in there.
Okay.
So in order to actually see it, that was the only way I was going to do that. So I just did that, and then I did like further out. Hold on one second. Did this one.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
So
Got the
a
whole
little,
cake.
yeah, an actual cake, isn't it cute?
Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool. I'm amazed at Lego. I mean, they have some amazing stuff. I went to the Lego store and I got lost. I was like, but they're expensive.
They're expensive, yes.
Well, I think they're expensive for Legos anyway. You gotta go in there and think about like, do I buy a refrigerator or do I get a Lego set?
Yes,
That's
it's kind of that bad.
it's that type of thing.
So I just took it from
Okay.
different angles. That's
Okay,
all.
but you see what's happening in
Yeah.
reference to your ISO inside, right?
Yes.
And you can
Yep.
see the reflective number that you need to see. So if you're in there and you're like, I want to shoot food, right? Because you want to do a brochure or you want to have a special event, then you got to know that, hey, I'm gonna use this table because any place in your house can become your studio. But the best place is wherever you have any natural light or you have more control light. And like this table, you got plenty of light over there. And I love that your depth of field is low. Your f-stop was really down because you can see that everything about his tie, I mean his shirt and all that stuff is in focus and everything around it is out. So cool. All right. Well, thank you, Chrissy. Any comment, any thought that you learned or anything that you want to share?
That helped a lot with the ISO. That made more sense.
Cool. All right, Mike, I see you, and then I see Caitlin. I mean Sierra, excuse me. I don't even know where I said Caitlin. Caitlin is somebody else I was sending a message to. But anyway, I divert. Mike. Oh, look at the coat on that dog.
Yeah. I got Oakley here.
Oakley.
Oakley, yeah. She cooperated enough to take some photos. So
Yeah, give her some props.
the only light in this room is just the there's like a lamp. So I think actually if I get out, I can look at the info. All right, now let's see. There we go. So that's 1600 ISO, 36 mil, 2.8 and 1/30. So I actually had the camera leaned up against the ground so I could go a little slower shutter speed without any
Okay.
shake, hopefully.
Okay.
Here's 1250. So 1600, 1250, you can see it got a little darker, a little underexposed. But there's a lot of depth of field once I zoomed in because I zoomed into 51 here. Still 1600.
ISO 1600.
Yeah, ISO 1600. Her
Okay.
face is in focus pretty good. She's so dark. That's the tough part about photographing her is she's like jet black. So she's
I think it's beautiful. So I like the feature in her, right in her chin area. That was cool.
so her nose is in focus, but the eyes are a little out there. So
Yep.
I think that one was kind of cool.
What was your ISO? What was your ISO on that one?
1200,
1200. Yeah,
12,800.
I see 1200.
And then 1/200. So I sped up the shutter speed a little bit because she started moving. So that's why I had to increase ISO.
Okay.
F2.8 still stayed 2.8 the whole time and zoomed in even more to 63. So that created even more depth of field there. And then back out here to still at 12,800 with the 1/200 shutter speed. So it's capturing her while she's moving and stuff and not getting too much motion blur.
Okay. Well, again, the main thing that I wanted you to be more aware of was how ISO indoors makes the difference. Because once you start setting your speed, your shutter speed, and your other stuff, if you haven't figured out your ISO, your photos indoors going to be dark. And I don't know if you ever went to an event and you thought, oh man, I got some good photos. And then you get home and you're like, ugh, they're too dark. Sally's face is just not there. I have to do some post-production. All right. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. All right. And so after Mike is, who did I say? Oh, we only got one person left, Sierra. Sierra, it's on you. Oh, look at that.
I misunderstood the assignment, so I will take it, but I'll show you what I have because it did turn out a little interesting. So I set the ISO, I set a faster shutter speed, and because I wanted depth of field, I did do a low f-stop, but it didn't give me that much depth of field at f/5. I guess I should have gone lower than that.
Lower that, yeah, like a 2
But
points.
So I have a dimmer on the overhead light that I put it on, and I also had an external light with a torch lamp that I kind of had. So I started playing with, this was kind of the dimmer down from the top, and then this was the light all the way up from the top, and then I added the light coming forward so that it highlighted it up front, and so you can see a little bit more inside this darkness, a little more depth there. And then I tried it from the side, so you can see like over here, it's kind of brighter, but it also picked up some of it here, which created some interesting shadows. And then I went from the back, and obviously that brought a couple of the things, and the chairs back here, and obviously the wall comes forward when it was kind of towards the back there. And then I was just trying to kind of get more of the fill of everything. And then I took totally the light off the top of it and just had the light kind of at the side and then to the front. So this was the light from the top completely gone and the side light coming in, and then the light from the top gone with it being more in the front. So I guess I was looking at it from taking different shots with different lighting styles, not changing your ISO to get some of those things, but I guess I just did a different lesson than everybody
Well, I mean,
else.
hey, here's the thing. You did what you needed to do to get what you wanted so that you can see the difference. My main thing is that even if you did that, right, and I think it's fine, the fact is you still know why. You know what's going on with your ISO. So for this, of course, you now know too that, hey, I can get some highlights if I have the light coming from this place or that place, and it becomes a real interesting thing. And you also found out that in order for you to get that real cool depth of field, you needed to get that number down, right?
I
In your
guess I was just
position.
surprised that f/5, or the f-stop at 5 would have done it. I didn't realize I had to go like all the way down to like 2.8. So that was kind of surprising to me that even that low of a number, I still really didn't get that much depth of field. I guess the picture in the back looks a little bit more, and maybe it's just because this is so bright white.
No,
That's,
when
I
you
don't know.
do 2.8, it should
Okay.
start the back should start fading, even though it's all cool and everything. You should not have that crispiness in the backfill.
Okay.
And unless you have it on another priority versus actually on manual where, you know, you're making that decision. So, but overall, thoughts, questions, anything, comment?
Not for me.
All right. Well, this is where we land, right? We land on this activity. So I want to say again, I got to give some hearts, some reaction here, because you guys did, again, follow the instructions, follow the information, and did a really cool job. So again, I want to remind you that Shelly is going to be at CSM with the Become One project. It's actually, I think, is even in the paper for the local stuff to do in Charles County. I mean, not Charles County, in Southern Maryland. But let me put that back in the chat so you can get that and capture that up so that you can move forward. Again, we have 3 more days that we are together. And so your next assignment is going to be around, again, everything we've already done. And I also want you to start thinking about your final project. In your final project, you're going to need to be able to identify every single lesson. So this weekend, or this week, whenever these next couple of days, you get your email, it's going to have what you've learned so far. And some of you probably going to be really surprised that we've covered so much in such a short period of time. And I'm going to ask you to use PowerPoint or some kind of presentation method to present your stuff. You can do it in a TED Talk way where you just bring up your photos and share, or you can actually, you know, have a presentation. You don't have to have a presentation, but you do need to present on the information. So what's an f-stop, what it looks like before, after, what you learned, how you can show your transition from what you did before to what you're doing now, right? And so are there any questions on lighting or any of the information we talked about today? All right, light metering. So your main assignment is to learn about your light metering, right? And so let me go back to that real quick. Where am I? Where's my Zoom? Okay. And I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get out of here in 1 minute. All right. So what's in the way? Something's in the way. Oh, email stuff. All right. So light metering, evaluative, center weighted average, spot metering, and partial metering. I would like for you to take at least 3 photos on and use all of your light metering inside your actual camera. All right. Remember that we talked about your exposure compensation. You can use that in this exercise, but you're going to use all of your current metering modes. If you have more than 4, then you're going to have more than 4. If you only have, 1, then you're going to just use your 1. The next thing I want you to do is the power of light. I want you to set up a system of lights inside. You're going to create a rim light. You might have to use your lights in your house a certain way, a key light and a key rim. I want you to kind of, in a way, duplicate this, where you're in a full dark room with this one little key light off to the side somewhere. And then you're going to have a full, fill light, and then a key light and then a rim light. Okay. So, other than that, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about histograms. So find your histogram on your camera. If you don't know what that is, it looks like the little peaks and valleys. And when you get ready to take a picture, it's kind of light, white, or colorful type of thing. But you can look in your manual as well. But get to know where your histogram is. We're going to talk about histograms, and then we're going to go into putting all this stuff together. I'm going to share also websites for the one I had talked about in our opening with Elizabeth, Dr. Elizabeth, and her 50, what happened when she turned 50 and how she decided to pick up her camera. All right. Between now and then, I hope all is well, and I'll be sending you again an email. Tonight, I'm actually got enough time that I'm downloading the video right afterwards. So I think you'll probably get the follow up with the assignment and all that stuff within 48 hours. All right, because I have some time tomorrow as well. This week has been a busy week with the value. I have my youth program who graduated last night, and that was a big deal. And I've been at a leadership conference, actually a retreat for 3 days. So I've been going back and forth from Baltimore to Riverdale every day, which has been fun. So anyway, any questions? Any comments? Gail, you can hang out and we could chit chat right after. But if no one else has anything, I want to say good night, and we'll see you next week on the 2nd.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.